So I like your
Yeah,
headshot and very nice.
thank
This is
you.
Ariana. She's from class of 2015. She was in Avid, which you all are in Avid. Tell us a little bit about what it was like if you don't mind, growing up and kind of setting up what it was like to get into high school.
Yeah. So for me growing up, I have five siblings, and my mom was a single mom. My dad was like out here and there, and like my mom always kind of I guess like struggled like to raise us on her own. And so she was like in and out of different like domestic violence shelters, and we stayed with family here and there. And so she did the best that she could for like raising all of us on her own. And she struggled like with depression, and she was also like bipolar, and also struggled in her addiction. And so for us growing up, it was like really challenging, I guess I would say. But the only reason that I wanted to share that is because a lot of what I do now, like all of those experiences from when I grew up, I wouldn't change it for the world, because it has really helped me in what I'm doing now. So yeah.
There's a poem that I really love. There's a line in it, and it says, it makes me think of you. What batters you becomes your strength.
Mhm.
The things that kind of beat you up when you were younger become like a superpower, and they've
Yeah,
allowed you to grow into somebody who now gets to help others who might be going through different situations that are similar.
yeah. I never realized like just all of the challenges and struggles, like when I was younger and going through high school and all of that, like how like I would be able to use those things and to serve in the way that I do now. Like I never realized that it would benefit me in so many ways. So yeah.
Nowadays we have this new way of talking about it. It's called growth mindset, and it's probably something that'd be great for the people you work with to learn about. It's this idea that the struggles you go through and things that are difficult and that you learn to overcome, you learn from them and they make you stronger. Those difficulties make you stronger, and the
Mm,
struggle, the science behind it too, is the struggle even interacts and causes your brain to create new neurons. Like it helps you grow basically. And our struggles, we don't realize it at the time because we're trying to get through them, but they do have
mm,
a way of shaping us.
mm,
When you
yeah.
were younger, what were some of the things you did? Because right, with COVID and a lot of these things that we've been through, what did you do personally to kind of overcome things, or who did you reach out to, or were there programs or anything that you worked with or were involved with that helped you?
Yeah. So for me, kind of like my coping way with all of the challenges that were going on at home was to like really get involved at school and in the community. I also had like a lot of mentors, um, coaches, and teachers like you, that like really invested in my life. And so for me, I was thinking back when I was in high school. I got to school at like 7, and then I was there all the way till like 7 p.m. at night, between like sports, like doing practice, and like tutoring and like studying, and also did like a lot of community service and was involved in a lot of clubs. So for me, that was like outlet, I guess, is like to like really immerse myself and like get involved as much as I could.
Um, can you uh, kind of expound on that a little bit? What are some of the things you were interested or that you were involved in high school?
So all 4 years of high school, I played varsity softball, and then all 4 years I also did Avid, so I was big part of that. And then I was involved. Kind of sounds crazy, but I was involved in like 10 clubs, some of which I wasn't as active as the other ones, but I was involved in a bunch of clubs, and um, did a ton of volunteering through all of those clubs. And so kept myself really busy. And then like with softball, would have tournaments on the weekends and different things like that. And then did tutoring a lot, and so that was like what my life looked like in high school mostly. It's
Was there
just like
anything you did to stay,
academics, sports. Huh?
was there anything you did to stay balanced, like to not, because I remember similar, a little bit of about what it was like. I do remember like you go to practice, you did go to tutoring consistently. I think even I might have been tutoring then, but you
Yeah.
went to other people, other teachers as well. And I do
Hmm.
remember you being involved in clubs, one that met like a couple doors down, maybe, I don't remember which one it was.
That
It
was,
was the
I think it was
community
Key Club.
service one, Key Club. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, Key Club.
And
Yeah.
so how did you stay balanced? Did you use a calendar? How did you budget and manage your time so to do so many things or to stay so active?
Well, I did use a calendar, well, my planner, and I use that like all through high school, and I still like I use that all through college, and I still use that today. Like I for all of my schedule, I have to use like a planner all the time and write everything down, because if not, I'll forget like what my commitments are, because my personality is that I like to commit to a lot of things. And so when I make those commitments, I always want to like follow through on those. And so I have to write it down so that I remember. So my planner is like what I always lived by in high school, and I still live by today. But
Do you remember what made you start
yeah,
using it? What made you start using the calendar? Was it in middle school or later?
um, yeah, I probably used it a little bit in middle school. Um, but I think I used it more in high school and in college. Um, and yeah, that's basically what I stick by, to be able to manage all of my like time and what I was doing. But yeah, like I said, it was that like being involved in all of those ways was really my way of like, because I didn't really want to be home, and so I always wanted to be involved in at school and in the community and doing things. But it ended up turning out to be a positive thing, because it opened up a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities for me, and so which I would have never realized that like um, it benefit me in so many different ways.
Now, I remember before I think you said you had worked with the Boys and Girls Club, or maybe they helped you growing up, and then I remember you volunteering for them later. Um,
Yes.
what kind of services do they have or offer at the Boys and Girls Club?
Yeah. So I went to the Boys and Girls Club in East LA, and I'm pretty sure they're still open. They just changed their name. But I started going there um, probably in like fifth grade, I think, or something like that. And we went like pretty much every day. And like I said, my mom was a single mom, and so she was always um, like struggling to raise us on her own. So the Boys and Girls Club was like that thing that like stepped in and really helped my mom, because then we were able to stay there. We got free tutoring there. We got like free lunches, did a lot of like sports and different activities and stuff there, got a lot of opportunities there. And so the Boys and Girls Club and the people that were there invested into my life a lot. And I still talk to those people today, especially the director. She still continues to invest in our lives. And so so when I went to college, when I would come back, I had the opportunity to go and volunteer there, and do some stuff there. So that was really cool that like I got to pay it forward for like all the ways that they've invested in my life.
Um, you might not be able to answer this easily, but it just makes me want to ask, like, what made you focus on these things that are good for you? Because right, there's all these other things we could focus on, and social media or going out or partying. Like, it seems like you were involved in a lot of clubs. You were dedicated as an athlete. You cared about school. You really. I just remember you working very, very, very hard. What do you think it
Mm,
was that made you direct towards the positive things like that? Is there anything in particular,
yeah.
or
Um, so I my mom gets mad when I say this, but I always say that I always wanted to do the opposite of what she did in life. And I think that's because I seen that the way that she struggled and the way that we struggled growing up, and I always wanted like different for my life. And so I think like I wanted to give myself as many opportunities and to take the advice that people were giving to me, the people that were mentoring me, to really listen to them, and like trust what they're saying, and like give myself as many opportunities as possible so that I didn't have to go through all of the things that we went through or that I watched my mom go through. So I feel like that was another part, is that I always wanted to be opposite and do different.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you
Yeah.
look at the streets and sometimes our community, it sometimes is very difficult and sad and bad stuff happening, but to have that attitude of doing the opposite in a positive
Yeah.
way, I mean, I know that it's
Yeah.
taken you a long way. Is there anything
Mhm.
you could think of that you wish you knew in high school that you would have liked someone to tell you, or that you did know that someone told you or you learned that while you're still in high school? Is there something valuable that students should know to prepare for
Um,
college or for life?
yeah. Yeah. So for when I was like in high school, I did the best that I could to prepare myself for college. And doing like, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to be so involved. But I feel like I wish there would have been more conversations with me about like finances and what it means to get into debt. And not that like going to college is a bad thing, because it was going to college opened up so many opportunities for me that I would not have been able to get to where I am today without that. But I think that there, nobody really had like conversations with me about like the weight of when you get into student loan debt. And the school that I chose to go to, going to a private Christian school, is more expensive, can be more expensive than other schools. And so I didn't end up, I ended up with, I think, like $15,000 in debt, which really isn't that bad.
It's
But
not
for me,
compared to, yeah, nowadays.
yeah, it's not bad at all, because I have like friends that are like in $200,000 debt or something like that. And so it's actually really good. But I guess right now I'm in the phase of life where I'm paying that off, and a lot of like my checks, I'm trying to pay it off. So I'll pay like anywhere from like 200 to 500 a month to be able to pay it off. And so I'm almost done. I'll be done with paying it off hopefully by the end of this year. But
Oh
I
wow.
wish when I yeah, I wish, so it's really not, I'm only 25 and I'm going to be done paying with it, but I still wish that finances and like how to manage your finances and what does it really mean to get into debt, like conversations around that would have been really helpful, because I just didn't know the weight of it, or the
I don't
sacrifices,
know.
I guess. Yeah.
I think it's good for everyone because they're sophomores to remember that. Like when you're going to choose, you really have to have that conversation with somebody in your Avid class or your college counselor to know what you're getting into. Because I don't know if I did it back when you were a senior, but I know after that they came out with apps for loans, like loan calculators. And I would project when we go through with the students, like, okay, here's 50,000, here's your payments. Here's 100,000, here's your payments. Here's 200,000. Like this is what it looks like. But even then, I think it's hard because it's so foreign to you. Like money,
It is.
you grew up poor. And I think for
Yeah.
me, growing up poor, we also have, at least some of us, this fear of debt. Like owing anything to us is like it stresses us out. I know it stressed me out a lot. Even though I took out a little bit of loans, it wasn't very
Yeah.
much. But that idea of owing, like you paid it back very quickly. So I could tell
Yeah.
that you don't want that burden over you. But yeah, that's definitely
No.
a very good thing to know. And then, now we have, I just saw one posted something a few weeks ago about financial literacy classes we have. I think it was an after school thing. So there are
That's
opportunities.
cool.
I hope
Yeah.
everyone who's listening to take advantage of these opportunities to talk about money, and not just college, but paying your bills and going, how to pay your credit cards and stuff like that.
Yes. All of that. I didn't learn that till like probably like my end years of college, and then after college of like what it means to build your credit score and like loans and like all this like financial stuff that I never knew until I started taking classes or like asking people. And so I wish I would have like been able to know that earlier on so I could get a head start on those things.
Do you remember, was back then, did we take Cornell notes? Was that still a thing?
Yes. I was wondering
Yeah.
if you guys still do that. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
they changed it. I'm glad, thank God they did. They let you take any notes, but we try to focus on, they're called focus notes, the interaction, how to highlight, how to underline, how to make comments and think
That's
about
good.
it, instead of like making them do one type.
That's
So
good.
do you remember
Yeah.
how did your note taking change when you went to college?
So I did Cornell notes when I was in high school, and then when I used it a little bit when my freshman year in college, but in college I used more like what you're saying, highlighting. For me, I like different colors, and also flashcards helped me a lot. And I did like a lot of study groups, and so I would have my roommates because for me, I lived with like two other people in the dorms, and so we would like quiz each other if we were in the same class or stuff. So I always do better with flashcards and like talking it out loud so that I can really understand the concept of what I was trying to learn. And colors really help me, different highlighting and stuff like that. Yeah.
So how would you describe how would you explain the difference between high school and college? Like how different was it, or what was the adjustment like, I guess?
um, I feel like high school, um, you, you take a lot of the like required, math, science, whatever those required classes that you are to take. But in college, you get to really dictate what classes you want to take because you're the one, paying for that school or getting a scholarship to go to that school. And so you get to choose your classes, and get to choose your major. And so it's really more geared, like I felt like it was more geared towards like the classes that I was actually interested in and wanted to learn in. And then I also felt like more determined to want to get a good grade because I kept thinking, I'm paying this much for this class. Like, I better show up because, I can't just skip it or something like that because I'm actually like, this is going to be hurting me in the end. So I wanted to like use the full opportunity for all of my classes. And so, and it's more, college is more like independent, you get to pick your schedule. So if you're a late riser, you can take classes in the evening. Or if you're like an early riser, for me, I would take classes like early in the morning, and I wanted to get it all done. And then I was working, and so working my schedule, like, so I guess the difference is you can really gear. Yeah.
So do you remember when you got into college what your choices were and how you decided on Vanguard? And then maybe you could tell us, what is Vanguard like?
Yeah. So I decided on Vanguard. It's kind of funny, but I had a friend, she was a year older than me, and she told me that it was really fun. And so that's why I chose to go. And I didn't really, and I felt, but I also at the same time knew that I wanted, can you still hear me?
Yeah, no, I turned off my video
Okay.
because the reception's kind of not great. So I thought it might help.
Oh, sorry. So the other reason why I chose Vanguard is because I knew that it was a small private Christian school. I specifically did want to go to a Christian school. And when I was in high school, I was like involved in the church and stuff. And so I felt really intrigued and wanted to go to a school like that. And then the smaller size classes, I felt like for me, academics has never come easy for me. And I knew like when I was in high school, I got a lot of tutoring and I reached out for a lot of help. And so I felt like having a smaller size class would be better for just me being able to learn and be able like to communicate with my professors and stuff and have a personal relationship with them. And then I also got a scholarship. It wasn't for the whole thing, but it was a pretty good size scholarship to be able to go to Vanguard. And so once I got that scholarship and really weighed like how much it would cost versus the other universities that I applied to, that's kind of how I made the decision.
How small were your
Huh?
classes? Remember, how many people were in your classes typically?
For me, it depends, but a lot. I'd probably say like around 20 students.
That's real small. That's good.
Yeah, and a lot of the students. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Do you want to tell us where is Vanguard and where is it? What's it located nearby?
So Vanguard is located in Orange County in Costa Mesa. It's right across the street from the Orange County Fairgrounds, if you guys have ever been there. That's also another reason why I chose Vanguard, is because it's driving distance away from where my family lived. And so I could be far enough away from them, like where I could feel, independent and on my own, but also at the same time, like I could still come home for holidays and like family emergencies or different things like that. So that was like my way of like, I want to go to college, but I still like want to be able to see my family. So yeah.
Do you remember how it was deciding on your major, or when or what were you thinking of before business, or did you always know you wanted to study business administration?
No. So I can't remember when I had to decide, but I know it was obviously before I went into my freshman year of college. I had to make a decision, and I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And so I chose business because I felt like everything you do is business. Like no matter what it is, it's some type of business. And so that's why I chose that, is because I felt like it was very vague and I still wasn't sure what exactly I wanted to do. I didn't realize what I wanted to do until my last semester in college, when I took a nonprofit management class. And that's where I really was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to work for a nonprofit. And that kind of, so I like my whole time in college, like people would like already have like their vision of what they wanted to be or what they wanted to do next. And it always felt like so overwhelming, because I felt like I was like having to pick one like career that was gonna be for the rest of my life. But then I realized in reality, like people go to college and get a degree and they go into something like completely different. And so then that kind of like relieved the pressure for me of what I wanted to do next. But once I took that nonprofit management class, that's when I realized that that's exactly what I wanted to go into, especially because in high school, I was doing so much community service and so involved in the community and serving others, that I wanted to be able to do that and work and to be able to serve and help other people. So
let me ask them, if anybody has any questions so far? Anything you want to ask about high school, college so far? Anything you're curious about? Can you tell us, what is a nonprofit? Like, what made you interested in that when you had the class? What's a nonprofit do?
So a nonprofit is a business and nonprofit. So it's not their goal, unlike other businesses, isn't to make a profit. They still have income and they make money through whether that's they get money through the government, or those organizations get money from personal donors, from people that want to donate money to allow them to be able to run that organization, whatever it's for. But their sole purpose is not like for like making a profit, if that makes sense. And so but they still have it's still like finances. They still have like income and revenue and all of those things. But they have a nonprofit organization has like a specific mission, and typically like for ours is to serve vulnerable women in crisis. And so like that is our sole mission. So yeah.
Did you kind of think you might want to do that? I noticed that it says here that you were in part of an anti-human trafficking club. How did you get involved in that? And maybe how did you Well, before we get into your business and what you're working and doing right now, what are some of the things you were involved in school? Because there's a few of them here: anti-trafficking club, freedom ambassadors. You did Bible
Hmm.
studies. I remember your mom and family would go feed the homeless. Could you maybe tell us
Yeah,
about one or two of those things?
yeah. Um, so um, pretty similar like to high school. I when I went to college, I did want to get involved. Um, I can't remember how I became a women's study minor or what made me decide to do that, but I took classes to be a women's studies minor, and it through that a lot of it is um, they do a lot of anti-human trafficking
Mm,
classes, research classes that they provide. And they also have a club on campus. And that was a pretty active club on campus. And so I wanted to be involved in that because I never knew that human trafficking exists. And then I never knew about all of the different forms and the different ways that it exists, and how I could be making a difference. And so through that club, we went to different high schools and we educated students on what human trafficking is, that how there's different sources. There's labor trafficking through the stuff that we maybe buy for really cheap could be from labor trafficking or sex trafficking. And that can even look like somebody messaging you online, um, and starting, it can start, that's how like someone would lure a person in, is through something like that or different ways. And so um, I really became intrigued by that. And so I got really involved in that because I was a women's studies minor. And that's the same thing of what the Freedom Ambassadors was. The Bible study teacher, I I started going to church, I think like my junior year in high school or something like that. I can't really remember. And so I knew that I wanted to be able to share with other people and teach what I had been learning. And then feeding the homeless, that is something that my mom started when we were younger, to go to Skid Row and give give lunches during Christmas time to the homeless, and we would make like um, 200 lunches. I think my junior year in high school, we had the whole football team that came to our house and helped us pack lunches, and we made like 2,000 lunches that year, and went to Skid Row and passed them out. Um,
I
and then
remember
the
you
other
shared
one,
pictures. You
huh?
shared pictures. I remember your mom collecting socks, like hundreds of pairs of socks to give
Mm-hmm.
out, and it was a
Yeah,
really, really, I don't know. I was so proud to see just how much you all could do with a little organizing.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of people from MHS got involved in that. A lot of the students, we would tell our friends, and everybody was donating different things. So it's just kind of funny because like those were all things like that were all like to build, to advocate, and to make people in the aware in the community, to give them an opportunity to make an impact. And so it just really, everything from high school to like what I was doing into college like led up to what I'm doing now. So it all kind of fell together. Yeah.
Um, I mean, how do you? It's probably more difficult than ever to get involved after COVID. We're still some of us very shy. Is there any advice you have for getting involved? Like, how do you get involved, or what would you tell a high school student?
um well, like with COVID, I understand like there is some like fear for certain students, maybe for health conditions. But if I, for me, before COVID, I just say like try to take every opportunity that is given to you. Um, and it really does, it opens up so many doors, that I would have never imagined. Like all these things that I like applied for, different work positions like in college and even after, like all of those things were things that I was able to put on my resume. And it allowed me opportunities to network with people, and um, like just learn from people. And so I would just say, yeah, just try to take every opportunity opportunity that is given to you, because there's a lot of resources and a lot of things that I know you guys provide through Avid and just at the high school in general. And so don't hesitate and let those things just pass by, you know.
Maybe next
Mm.
time you can talk, if you're able to meet again, about a little bit about human trafficking. I didn't, there's a lot of things that I never even thought about. But recently, and I think Wednesday, there was a report in Chicago where at a football or basketball game, at a ball game, a girl went to the restroom and she never came back. And they took her as a sex trafficker. And a week later, they found her, or several days later. But like you said, I think it's important for the students to be aware. Someone can contact you through DMs and messages, and they could lure you, and you really need to be smart and safe, because you don't know what you're being lured into sometimes. And there are, if we're honest, there are people who just disappear. So that'd be really helpful to teach the students. Maybe next time we can talk about that.
Yeah.
What is a residential assistant, and what did you do, and what do you get out of it?
So a residential assistant is so I basically worked for my school my junior year, and you live on the floor. So in the dorms, they give you an entire floor, or at least that's how it works at mine. But I'm pretty sure most colleges have a residential assistant when you live in the dorms. And I had 30 girls that lived on my floor, and they were a grade younger than me. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so we had 30 girls, and they. What?
1 second, because you broke in and out. So she was residential assistant, and she was in charge of a whole floor of girls, 30 girls. In my college, it was way less. It was like 20 people. It was a wing. So she's in charge of a grade below her, she said. And what are some of the things you have to do or responsible for?
Mostly like facilitating like community events, and caring for the people that are on our floor, and making sure, because I think when you go to college, sometimes you can be overlooked, but the residential assistant is like, their main thing is like to mentor the women on the floor, and to be able to provide community. So we would have floor events so that they can get to know the other women that lived near them, and kind of build community that way. And so,
did you have to enforce, like, I know that my school had a curfew. Did you have to enforce any rules also, kind of?
Yeah, so there were only certain times that the guys were allowed to be in the dorms. Like they couldn't, I think it was like after 10 o'clock, they couldn't be in the dorms. And so and then we were a dry campus, so there was no alcohol, no drugs or anything like that. So any of those situations, like if we had a male on the floor, or like drugs or alcohol or people partying, that was our responsibility to go and handle those situations. And so it was really a leadership position that helped me to grow as a person, because I had to have hard conversations with people and address things when about like stuff that was going on the floor, for the safety of all the other residents that were living there. And so it was really a growing time for me, because I hate conflict, and I never like to do stuff like that. But the other thing I was going to say about being a residential assistant is that they pay. So my school, you get to live in your own room, and it was a pretty good sized room, and they pay for the whole year for you to live on site. And that saved me a ton of money, because I didn't have to pay. And they also like they give you a stipend. So not only was I getting free room and board, but I was also getting a stipend, which I also used to help me like get through school. And so that helped me a lot.
So a residential assistant, my niece did it. Others do it. You get free room and board. So that's one of the payoffs. And she also got a stipend as well. And it is a responsibility. I had an avid student at UC San Diego. She did it. She got drunk one day and came home, and they fired her on the spot. So you need to take those responsibilities obviously seriously. When you're placed in charge, you need to be an example of everyone. They're looking to you.
Yeah.
So how did, maybe talk to us about how it led into what you do now, and what do you do now?
Yeah. So it's, I feel like being an RA was kind of a really cool opportunity because I lived on site with the people that I was mentoring. And then now, so after college, I moved out to Arizona, which is where I live now. And I work for an organization called Hope Women's Center. And they have 6 locations across the state of Arizona. And they basically help women in need. We work with women in domestic violence, homeless women that are experiencing homelessness, and like single moms, women experiencing addiction, lots of different scenarios. And so we have 6 day centers and 1 maternity home, which is for specifically for women that are pregnant or parenting and there. And so for 2.5 years, I lived on site as the house manager there. And so it's pretty similar to what I was doing as an RA, living on site, mentoring women. And so when I first applied, I was able to use that on my resume and like on my job application to be able to tell them like, I've done this before, or something similar to this, but now working with women that are in crisis situations. And so I did that. I lived on site with them for 2.5 years, and then I think it was, I can't remember. I think it was like October of last year. I live across the street, but I still am a resident that graduated the program that does the nighttime. And so she's like our senior resident that oversees nighttime, and then I do the daytime. And so yeah, we do a lot of stuff. We provide counseling, mentoring. I meet with the women and help them set goals. A lot of them come like without cars, without jobs, without any resources, no money. And so we work on a savings plan with them. We help them to be able to find transportation. We get vehicles that are donated. And so we work with them on getting their license for the first time. Some of them, these women are like, over 30 years old and they've never had their driver's license ever. And so we work with them on that. We work with them on getting a job and building their resume, and working through some of their past trauma that they've experienced. 100% of the women that come to the home have all experienced some form of abuse one way or another. Whether that was in their childhood or in their adulthood, through that trauma, and do a lot of mentoring. And there's a lot of different stuff that they're working on while they're in the program. So yeah.
That sounds like a lot. That's a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
different things.
it's a busy job. It's really busy. And there's a lot of situations like I was saying, when I was a resume, I had to have a lot of really hard conversations with finding drugs, alcohol on the premises. And that's the same thing that we deal with over here, is having a lot of really hard conversations, because these women have been through so much trauma and so much abuse, or maybe they're so deep into their addiction and they're learning how to overcome those things, but they still fall and struggle at times. And so it's also a very challenging job, because you're like, I can't take things personal, like if they lie to me, or if they bring someone on property that they're not supposed to, or if they like bring drugs or alcohol or whatever it is that they bring with them. Like I really try my best not to take those things personally, and to come at it from a point of like, these women have been through a lot of different forms of abuse and different things that they're trying to overcome. So it has grown me a lot as a person in this position, because I have to address conflict all the time. So yeah.
I have just a couple more questions. So before we move away from like the very difficult things you're talking about, what do you do to take care of your mental health and your well-being? Like now that you're an adult or in college, like what did you do to relax or to de-stress? And then the other question following up with that is like, what are some of the fun things in college or now that you're an adult that kind of the payoff for all the hard work?
Mm-hmm. So one of the like things for me is always like taking care of like my mind, body, and soul. And so physically, I go to the gym, every morning. That's kind of like my outlet to be able to focus on my fitness. And it really just helps me to get my mind off of the stressful things in life, because, life is hard at times. And so focusing on eating well, working out, spirituality, for me, that's going to church, journaling, being in prayer. All of those things help me to become a healthier individual. And then just my mind focusing on the positive things in life, and always keeping like a positive outlook. And also like having friends. I have a lot of really close friends in Arizona that I can turn to if I'm struggling or anything like that, or if I feel like things are getting too stressful or too overwhelming at times. I have some really close friends that I can like talk to, and that's kind of my outlet. I was also doing counseling for a little bit last year, and that was really helpful. But I really try my best to, and also on my days off, I try not to go into work, and I try to set healthy boundaries, because I know that I cannot be a good worker and serve the people that I'm serving well without caring for myself first. And so I really try to be intentional about being the healthiest person that I can be, so that I can show up to work and be the best worker that I can be.
That's something I think every parent and anyone who takes care of people has to remember. It's hard to remember that. Like, people depend on you. It means you need to take care of yourself also, because people depend on you and you depend on yourself. What's some of the fun stuff? Like in college, what's some fun stuff that you really like enjoyed? I know it said that you went to Greece on a trip. And now, like, what are some of the payoffs for all of your hard work?
Yeah. So some of the fun stuff, I got the opportunity to go to Greece. And that was for a missions trip for the anti-human trafficking work that we were doing. But it's still a really great opportunity and really fun to get out of like the country and see like that there's more like beyond, and just experiencing different cultures. And also, like when I was in high school, I didn't have the opportunities to travel much. But through when I got older, like through college and even after, been able to travel to different states. And that has been really enjoyable and has really opened up my like worldview and perspective, and just being able to travel and go different places. Also, some of the other fun stuff is, sorry, I have all these notifications. Oh, in college, I got to make some really deep friendships that have like stuck around. I can't remember how many years I think I've been out of college for like 4 years or something. I don't know. But those friendships have continued to remain. And so you get to meet through all like different opportunities or whatever direction that you do go in life. Because you get to choose, your path and what interests you most and what you want to do. You get to meet some really neat people along the way. And so I've gotten to build a lot of really neat friendships through that. What was your other question?
Just like you were saying, just fun stuff, interesting stuff. I would say,
yeah, other fun. Go ahead. No,
go ahead. Now you go for it.
Oh, the other fun stuff is I'm in the process. I'm going to be getting married in September. And so that is fun and exciting. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think I saw a picture after you got engaged of you both were hiking, I think. Didn't he propose on a hike or no? Or am I thinking of someone else?
Yeah. He proposed on a hike. We really like doing hikes and like outdoors stuff and exploring nature and stuff like that. So
So, is there any advice you would give to someone who's struggling, like maybe some of the things you went through growing up, or some of the things the women that you work with go through? Like, what advice would you give to people who are struggling, men or women?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I feel like I started to almost like fall a little bit into like being depressed and like not wanting to do very much. But being able to get out into the community and serve other people and not be consumed like with myself and always thinking about myself all the time and actually serving others has helped me so much. And I think that like has been a thing that started in high school and has remained up until today, is being able to, and obviously it's important to care for yourself, and I think that's so important, and I really try to prioritize that. But I think not always being consumed with yourself and being able to serve others, I don't know what it is, but doing community service is so fulfilling, and it just it pulls me out of some negative mindsets that I might have, or thinking about myself constantly all the time. And so I think that's like what I would say. Yeah.
You know, I learned that the hard way too. I was probably much older than you, and one of the most depressing times I was going through, I read that in a book, and it was saying, you know, going to help others takes you out of your mind and dwelling on the things you're dwelling on.
Mm-hmm.
It made me realize like to do things in opposites. Like when I'm depressed, go make someone else happy. If I can't be happy, go make someone else happy. If I don't feel loved,
Mm-hmm.
go make someone else feel loved. If I feel
Mm-hmm.
you know, if I feel overwhelmed, go help someone. Like, and opposites. And sometimes when you don't want to do anything, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling overwhelmed by life, going out there, and the worst that could happen is you help someone and it makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But the best
Yeah.
that could happen is it changes you, and it makes you, gives you
Mm-hmm.
perspective. It shows you different avenues of life and what's really out there, and it changes your perspective. That's what being a teacher is like too. You learn about the students' lives, and it changes your perspective. And how I thought I was growing up and what I struggled with is nothing compared to some of the other people that I've met as a teacher who struggle, who really struggle. But they,
Mm-hmm.
like you, I think it makes us so proud to see you overcome it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
lately my idea is we believe in you young people, and we're proud of you, and we believe you could do this or that, and your parents believe you could do this or that, and you believe you could do something. You can always do more than that. You have like way more potential and talents than you realize. And for you in particular, like, you know, you're not very tall, you're a little short girl, but you're so
Yeah.
strong. Like you're so large, you're larger than life. On the flip side, like you're this big person in charge of, in college, in charge of 30 people. Now when you told me you were working for the homeless shelter, to think that just out of college you could already have the strength to do that, I could never have done that. I love people and care about them, but I would have never had the strength or courage to, so young, put myself out there and really help some of the most vulnerable people who are dealing with some of the most sticky, nasty, difficult things in their
Mm-hmm.
lives.
Yeah.
You know, to think that you would go and achieve this, like you've way gone beyond our expectations, and you're going to keep doing that, I'm sure. But it always makes us so
Mm-hmm.
proud. Um, and you know
Yeah.
me, I'm the kind of person who values helping others. So like to me, you're like a millionaire. You're more important than people who make a lot of money, because you're doing something to
Yeah.
help people's lives, and that to me in
Mm-hmm.
particular,
And
it matters.
yeah, and
Go
it's so fulfilling. It's something, the job that I do now is something that I'm so passionate about. And I wouldn't change it for anything else. It's so fulfilling and so rewarding in ways that I would have never expected. Um, so yeah, but like you were saying, it is kind of crazy just to reflect back on like who I was, um, in high school to now. Like so much has changed. And yeah, it's
Are you okay?
can you hear me? Oh yeah,
Hmm.
can you hear me? Okay,
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Um, you know, again, I'm very proud of you. So, you know, to wrap it up, is there any questions? Maybe you want to just share one last thing if you want. Like, how do you think your faith has helped you through college and beyond? Believe what your belief
um
system and your religion.
yeah, yeah, well, for me, my faith started, like it started small when I was in high school, but it really expanded when I went to a private Christian school because I saw other students that were like just on fire for God, and that like made, and I saw that they like had like they just, there was something like this sense of like just watching them and just the way that they live life that I wanted. And so that's like college is really where I grew deeper in my faith. And I feel like that is like solidly the thing that has brought in me as far as it's brought in me. Like I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for God, and just how far He strengthened me. Because a lot of times at work, I feel like I can't do this. Like I really feel like I can't do this, but I continue to really lean on Him as my strength, and I feel like that's what gets me through, and that's what keeps pushing me to strive for new opportunities and to do things that I never thought I could do before. And so I feel like that has like definitely helped me so much.
Thank you. Any questions or any thoughts you want to ask? You know, I wish we had more time. I'd talk about your sisters and Miranda and
Yeah.
Larissa. You're a twin. I'm so proud of how she went and followed her passion with cheerleading, but eventually it led to jobs, and eventually I think it led to a scholarship to at a college to go and cheer. And just to know a little bit about where you came from also, and how hard it was growing up and going in and out of homeless shelters or other battered women and other situations makes us very proud, because that's what education to us is. That's what it's all about. It's allowing not only your lives but the lives of others around you to get better because of your education and your hard work. So we're proud of you.
Thanks.
Well, I'll talk to you some more later, but thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.